How is everybody? We are live everywhere. Wow. All right. Looks like what is that? Instagram? Instagram is quick today. See you piling on Instagram first. Nothing wrong with that. How is everybody doing? TikTok doing its thing. I see you guys piling in on TikTok next. Facebook looks like it's popping up next. Good stuff. And YouTube is being slow as usual. All right, guys, what's going on? Had some time. I got a lot of time lately. Had some time. Wanted to jump on, talk to you guys. Really, what typically happens is if I get done with something, and we just got done working on something, we don't work directly with clients on the weekends, but we do work on the weekends. And once we see something new or we see something really, really cool, I typically go live and essentially just kind of teach it a little bit for those folks that can benefit from it. So we just got done finishing a bond ladder setup, a relocation bond ladder setup for somebody, and it's super cool to see it work. I like talking about it. It's one of the things I talk about the most because it's super unique. And it typically really, really, really helps folks that are really wanting to relocate and have no idea how they're going to afford it after the fact. And so, what ends up happening with a full relocation bond ladder is the client relocates. We get them a bond ladder, a bond ladder, and the bond ladder can handle all their bills, essentially for like the next 10 years, right? So they're able to make that move and essentially quit their job. A lot of them either pick up a side hustle or whatever, just to do something that they like to do. Or the folks that actually have a job that they can do remotely or whatever, they'll tend to keep it for a little while. I can't think of anybody who kept their job permanently. Typically, a supervisor says something crazy one day, and because you have the passive income to back it up, you just say "F you, I'm going." Right? So that's typically what happens. But most of them, though, they pick up some side hustle that they always wanted to do. Right? Like, we got a guy who does voice acting now. He always wanted to do it. Couldn't do it before. Now he can. There's a lady who always wanted to do soap. Different people have these different habits, but she always wanted to do like boutique handmade soap. Like, now she does it. Not only does she do it, she gets her boutique price. Like, it's her first 3 months in business, and she gets like crazy boutique, SD handmade soap prices. Why? Because she doesn't need the money. She doesn't care if you buy from her or not, because she has a ton of passive income coming in that covers all of her expenses, right? So the impact from that project is so profound that I just love talking about it. And so we just finished one. This particular client wanted us to go ahead and get their bond ladder hooked up ASAP, so they paid extra. All right, it is extra, but they wanted to get their bond ladder hooked up ASAP, and so because of that, everything went to the secondary market, right? And so we were able to actually get the entire bond ladder done in 1 month, which is not typical. Typically, it goes ahead and it takes us all 6 months, but they weren't playing. So they wanted everything done. They wanted everything done yesterday. Interestingly enough, now that I'm thinking about it, because of what their job is, they might have known what was going to jump off in Iran, because they were like really pushing, and got here a day before the bombs started falling. So, and they have one of those kind of jobs that they might have known that was coming. But anyway, they pushed and got what they wanted. So they got all their stuff done like within a month, which was super duper fast. But they're good now. You know what I mean? Like, they took the buyout, the Trump buyout, but they're really, just covered from everything. So, Wenda. All right, one of my family members is on Wenda, so I'll say hi to you. How's it going? But yeah. So super duper cool when it all comes together. It's really easy though. It's really easy to like understand. It's a currency hack. That's really all it is. It's a currency hack. If you're, let's say you're American, most people can kind of understand what American dollars do, even if they're not American, right? So let's just assume that you're American. If you had $6 million, 1 million each in a different hedge fund, do you think you could retire? Right? I've never run into anyone who was being serious, who wasn't like trying to be a troll or something, who was like, no, there's no way I could retire with $6 million. Like, everybody knows, whether you're a financial person or not, everybody knows that if you had $6 million, you could tell your boss to you know, uh, uh, go screw off, right? And so it's the same thing. It's just a currency hack. Because when we do a bond ladder where people are living off the bond ladder, that's exactly what they're getting. They're getting over $6 million in guaranteed, not dollars, I'm sorry, 6 million local currency units, right? In guaranteed treasuries in a place where cost of living is lower and buying power is higher, right? That it's literally the exact same thing. They're just, currency hacking it so that they can do it now, right? And then the other thing is, like, if even if you're looking at it from like an American lens, we go back to $6 million in hedge funds in America, right? So we're all confident that yeah, we could quit our jobs. We could, that $6 million will carry us if it's invested, and so on and so forth. All right, great. Where are you gonna live, right? If you own a house, perfect. It's gonna work, right? And everybody like intuitively understands that. Like, if you own a house, perfect. It's gonna work. I can quit I just got $6 million, right? I don't have to. I can be a hell of a lot more comfortable at work, right? My boss tells me to do something I don't like doing, I can say no. Right? What you gonna do next? You wanna fire me? Okay. Right? Like, but everybody kind of intuitively understands that that grants them a bit of freedom, right? And so that's the other part of it. Is for a lot of folks, they need to have a house built on top of that, and as long as they have the house and they got the 6 million, they're solid, right? It's just so happens that it's not $6 million because they're relocating, right? So that's how it works. It's pretty easy to understand. Everybody gets it. You know what I mean? Like, once they think about it in dollars, everybody understands that it works, right? It's just a matter of taking the plunge and making sure that you have the house, right? Yeah, you could rent a place, but you're risking it now, right? The other thing is the time frame that's attached to it. That matters a lot as well, right? So for us, it's never any less than 10 years, right? Never any less than 10 years. So what we do is we pick treasuries that have a maturity of at least 10 years, right? So that way all of our clients are getting paid monthly on that 6 million for the next 10 years. And then at the end, they get the 6 million back because it's a bond. It's not a stock, right? So at the end, they get the money back, right? So it allows them to have 10 years of freedom, figure things out. And here's the other thing: what if what you figure out is that you're going back, right? Or you're going to a different place? It's still your bond. You can go to a different place and you still get the monthly payments. You can go to a different place and you still get the money back at the end, right? So it's one of those, lifestyle investments that just becomes flexible enough for people to use it as a jump off point. So that's exactly how, that works, and how easy it is to comprehend once you like step back and think about it in your own currency. Hey Darren, how's it going? Hey Sadat, I see you said something, but the way I have this setup worked out, I can't actually see what you said. So just give me just a minute to move some of this stuff around. See, I have multiple devices in front of the device that you mentioned something on. And second time, what city do you recommend to visit for non-Western lifestyle, but still comfortable and rich? What? And rich. Give me ones and And rich socially. Well, that's a really difficult question to ask somebody because who would know what you think is rich socially, right? So that's a little bit. I don't think I can answer that. That part of it. Um, as far as a non-Western lifestyle, what do you give me a little bit more than just that one sentence? I mean, because I'm finding it difficult to answer your question. I don't drop the you know the rich socially thing because I don't know what you would consider rich socially. But give me more about what you mean by non-Western lifestyle. I think we say that often, and what a lot of people who say that to me are talking about are the negative parts of the West, but Western influence is everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, I lived in China, there was Western influence. You know what I mean? I lived in St. Lucia, there was Western influence. So I don't, you know what I mean? Just give me more than that one line in order for me to answer you properly. Thank you. Always watch for almost 5 hours. All right, so then you're watching some of the old videos. I appreciate that. Super cool. Yeah, I mean, so like some people, that's exactly right. Like some people, rich socially means like nightlife. You know what I mean? Which is not my thing, so I'm not the best person to ask about that. For other people, rich socially means like beadwork. You know what I mean? And like Maasai shields and stuff like that, and going out on safari and stuff like that. Which is really not my thing either. So you know what I mean? So as far as those kind of like personal things go, as far as like what's going to fulfill you, if you actually need an answer to that, oh, hey, Miriam, if you actually need an answer to that, then you got to really be specific in the asking, right? So, like, we'll get people who say, I kite surf. It is one of my favorite things to do. I do it all the time. I choose vacation places to go just to do it. That's one of the reasons why I'm choosing the coast and not like Nairobi, is because I want to kite surf every day. Now, which city do you recommend? Okay, I can give you an answer. You know what I mean? But if you're just like, hey, which city has really cool hobbies? Well, my cool hobbies might not be your cool hobbies. So that's a really difficult answer question for me to answer. Oop, did I? Sorry. Thank you for telling me that. Apparently, I put one of the devices back too high and it blocked the YouTube camera. Yeah, I mean, it is an investment. So here's what happens. Typically, bonds are considered to be like amongst the safest asset class. The safer the asset class, the lower the return on your investment, right? So if the asset class is really, really, really safe, then your return on investment is going to be 1%, 2%, 3%, 4, right? And so your return on investment might actually be lower than inflation. If your return on investment is lower than inflation, you're losing money, right? So the safer the investment, the lower the return. If the return is too low, then you're actually going to be losing money. All right. So that's typically where people stand with bonds. Like sometimes the ROI on a bond is so low that you're actually losing money buying it, right? So instead they'll go to stock market or maybe a private bond or some kind of fund or something like that, right? To get a little bit of higher return. In these situations where you're dealing with tier two economies, going from a tier two economy to like a tier one economy, their need for cash is so high that they raise the ROI on the bonds to attract investment, right? But the maturity of the bond is still going to be long term because it's a bond, it's not a bill. The short term version of a bond is a bill, right? So it's still going to be a long term maturity because it's a bond, period. So you can get 10 years of this much higher interest rate. You can even get up to 30 years of this much higher interest rate, from bond to bond to bond. Now, bonds, at least in this jurisdiction, pay out twice a year, right? So they have an annual guaranteed kind of interest rate, treasury bonds, but they pay out once every 6 months. So you need the latter in order to get monthly payments. And if you're going to come live off the bond, then you need monthly payments, right? You can't, I mean, unless you're incredible at budgeting. Typically, people can't get one paycheck every 6 months and then be cool for the next 6 months and not run out of money, right? They need to get paid, with some kind of frequency that's not too long, but also too short. And a month is typically the max of that frequency. People, some people like to be getting paid every week. Most people are very okay with being paid bi-weekly, and a month is like the max of what they're okay with. So the latter allows that money to come in monthly. And that's why the latter is necessary, and that's also why the jurisdiction for the bond is what it is. It has to be a perfect storm, right? So it has to be a place where they want money, but also their economy is stable, right? Because they can want money because they're unstable. That's not a good look, right? So it has to be they want money because they're going from tier two to tier one, but their economy is stable, so you feel good about it, right? It also has to be a place where you're not losing access to like medical and like losing all the things that are important for legitimate lifestyle, not like rich lifestyle, but like if I have a kidney stone, I don't die from a kidney, like something stupid like that, right? So it has to be like you got good medical, got good tech probably. You probably want to be able to access the internet. You probably want to, not have to worry about the power going out and all of that type of stuff, right? And that it's not like war torn. You don't want to have to worry about a random, bullet coming through your window or something like that. So it has to be the perfect storm of kind of all of those things for it to work out. And then the other, probably most important part is the cost of living. It has to be so that the cost of living is effective enough so that the coupon payments, which is what ROI on a bond is called, the coupon payments can cover your cost of living, right? So that after you make that investment, you're good for the next 10 years, right? So that's the perfect storm factors that all got to come together just the right way so you can pull this thing off. All right. Hey, Ben, how are you? Sorry about that. Hey, friend. Judah, how's it going? I guess, hold on. I guess non-Western lifestyle meaning traditional lifestyle, void of popular Western entertainment influence, and nice people to meet. I I feel like based on that definition, that would be like all of Kenya. Um, it used to be. Now I've been coming here for a long time. There's a bit of a shift. I remember when I first came here, I heard like all the same music and I heard like all the same stuff and blah 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 blah, right? So entertainment influence like you're talking about. Now I hear a lot of bongo, which is like Tanzanian music. It's like Diamond Platinum in them, and Boso and those guys. I hear a lot of what's the South African one? But a lot of that. There's a lot of African entertainment influence now. I would say more so than Western entertainment influence. So I think it kind of, if you're talking about entertainment, and I kind of mentioned that when I was going over the socially rich thing, like me not necessarily knowing what that means. I'm not a clubber. I'm not a go to entertainment spots person. So I don't know. Maybe the club people would disagree with me. But as far as what I hear, in the street and at the restaurants and stuff like that, they've kind of moved away from American entertainment influence. So from my point of view on that, I would say anywhere it would be fine. You would run into bongo music and African entertainment way more than you would Western entertainment. Like it's not a carbon copy of the West. You know what I mean? Like essentially, no matter where you go, it's going to be very different. But that is one of the number one reasons that we kind of chose Kenya is that the people are super super nice. So who my neighbors were ever. I had no idea who owned what kids, right? Ever, right? Just wasn't something that I had access to. And probably at here, I have associates, I mean friends, who don't know my name, and I don't know theirs, right? And because socially we call each other by our children's names, so they'll call me, Baba Marcel, and I'll call them Mama Maria, and I don't know Maria's mom's name. Her name is Maria's mom. Her name is Mama Maria, and she doesn't know Marcel's dad's name. My name is Baba Marcel. Like that's it. So like socially, it's very different. I know all my neighbors. They know my kids. I know their kids. So it's the way it used to be. Like when I was coming up, it was like that. But when I grew up, it absolutely wasn't like it. And if you even tried, people thought that you were like, a PDF file or something like that. Like, why are you asking about the kids? Why do you want to know their names? Why do you want to know? You know what I mean? Like, it's a very, different thing in the United States. So you don't know who's bad little kids running around. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know where they come from. Who their parents are. You don't even know who lives next door. You know half the time. At least in Philly, that's the way it was. But here, absolutely not. Like we know all our neighbors. We know who their children are. They go play together at the beach and all of that stuff. It's actually nuts. Because my son is 23 months old, right? Like, and he goes off on his own, you know what I mean, with the other kids to the beach. It's crazy. But and of course like there's a nanny watching or his mom or whatever is watching, but like we didn't take him. We're just there chaperoning as adults. We didn't take him to the beach. Him and his peer group went to the beach. So it's pretty wild, pretty wild. I could never imagine a 2-year-old just, we're going wherever in Philly. It ain't happening. You know what I mean? Or it is happening and it's grotesque, one or the other. But you get that kind of old school, social feel still. So, but it's a real issue for a lot of people to figure out how they're going to pay for it. Life's amazing. They know that, or else they wouldn't be considering, relocating. They get that part, right? So the dream building is nice and all of that stuff, whatever. But they already know that part. That's why they're interested in the relocation in the first place. The hard part is funding it, right? And that's why the bond ladder goes so far and so deep, and so many people love it, because it gives them that ability. It gives them the answer to that question of how they're going to fund it. That's a perfect storm question. Remember, I said that in order to do it right, it has to be a perfect storm of those like 12 factors that I rambled off, 10 minutes ago, right? And so, if you want to do it in another country, then you got to get with a professional in that country and see if that country is a perfect storm. The only that we know it works is here, and it doesn't work everywhere here, right? So if you choose, you're just hell bent on living in Nairobi because you want to go to the rooftop bars and whatever. Okay, cool, and it'll help. Of course, any money helps, and consistent money helps, but it will not cover your lifestyle, right? You'll need more, right? So it's not like it's just a universal fix. If you live in Deani and you own a house, you're good. Not only will it cover your lifestyle, you have money left over probably every month, right? Because it's a different cost of living in Deani versus living in Nairobi, right? So it has to be It has to be in alignment with what you're doing. And we do have people that, do it and go to Nairobi and then it's just extra, right? Maybe it pays like their rent and their food, and then they got to get the rest worked out. So their electric, they got to get worked out. Their transportation, they got to get worked out. Like all the rest of it, they got to get worked out. Whereas if you're living in Deani and we build you a house and then you have the bond ladder, there's really not, you don't have to worry about money beyond that. And of course, if you're buying Birkin bags every week, like you could obviously spend any amount of money, you know what I mean? So you could put yourself in a position where it's not enough. But as far as like covering your needs, and a bit of your wants and all of that, you're good, you know. And then most people like then they start getting serious and moving forward from that, you know. What's the bond ladder? A bond ladder is a strategic group of bonds that will pay you an income, in this case monthly, so that you can live off of that income and not have to worry about working. And so the strategy is you buy the ladder with a more powerful currency in a place that has a less powerful currency, but basically the same standard of living, and you're able to just quit your job and live on the beach for the next 10 years because you have passive income coming in that covers everything for you. Yes, you can adjust the bond ladder. I don't know how long you've been following me, but a couple of months ago we had a family of 12 come in. So the standard bond ladder would not produce enough income for all 12 of them. So they like quintupled it. So, and then that's been working out really well for them. Correct. At the end of maturity, you get all your money back with the bond. It's not like a stock. Yeah. So when you buy a bond at the end of the maturity, you get all the money back, and during the maturity, you get paid the interest. So the interest is the money that they're living off of, and then at the end, they get all their money back. Hey, Zarif. Hopefully, I said that right. Hi, Dalen. Are they U.S. bonds or different? Definitely different countries. I mean, if you can do $6 million in U.S. bonds, like you don't got to work, right? So it's 6 million. It just ain't $6 million, right? So you're using less money in U.S. currency. Typically, we have Canadian clients and UK clients as well, but typically our clients are American. So you're using way less, not even $1 million, way less than that. But you're getting over $6 million and or over 6 million units in local currency. And then you got to look at what like the cost of living works out to. So if you have those 6 million units working for you at greater than 10%, then can you meet the cost of living? And in this particular situation, the answer is yes. So it has to be a perfect storm. There are other places you can do it, but if the cost of living doesn't work out and the exchange rate with the dollar doesn't work out and all of those things, then you don't get that perfect storm to work out, then like again, passive income is still great, but it might not be enough for you to just like stop working and going about your business. How much money do you need to get involved in the bond ladder? It depends on whether or not you have your immigration worked out or not, because we do it as a package that includes immigration and all of that. But again, the other thing is, and going back to thinking about it from a US dollar standpoint, right? If you had $6 million, could you stop working? Everybody's answer is yes. All right, great. So you had $6 million and it was invested and you were getting paid on that investment every month. Could you stop working? Answer is yes, right? Nobody answers no to that. Cool. Now, if you don't have a house, then what? Right? So then it becomes, okay, where are you going to live? You can't just go buy $1 million house because the 6 million is invested. You're getting the dividends on 6 million, right? So you're getting like 10% of the 6 million, every month, right? So it's just dividends on that. So you can't take the millions and go buy a house. So now what do? Right? So the house part has been, a bit of a clincher, right? If you have the house set up, you're good to go. So the house is part of the cost as well. You can get different sizes of houses, so that fee is variable. And then the bond ladder. So typically, like the average that people are spending on it is on average they're spending like 120. They're spending like 120. They're getting a three-bedroom house. They're getting the bond ladder. The bond ladder is guaranteed for 10 years. So they're getting 10 years of not having to ever work again. A brand new house, fully, paid off and all of that for less than like their down payment on a house in some cities in the United States, right? So it's working out super well for them. Worked out really well when private equity was in there buying up all of those single family houses too in the United States because people had their down payment saved up, right? So they had 90,000 saved up for a down payment, 110 saved up for a down payment, and then here comes BlackRock paying triple the amount cash for houses. So they're buying, 300, $1,000 houses for $900,000. You can't compete. You can't even get a bank loan that competes. So people were boxed out by that, and then it was like, well, wait a minute, we just go live at the beach. This money we saved is enough to completely live at the beach and quit our jobs and get money every single month to live off of for the next 10 years. It's like a no-brainer, right? So a lot of folks came through based on that. So like I said, it just has to be like a perfect storm so that all of the numbers match up. Yeah, somebody tried to do it in Nigeria and the numbers didn't match up. They have bonds. They're not like ours. Like for us, we can connect directly, with the central bank, right? So they have bonds, but you can't connect directly with the central bank. So automatically there were additional broker fees that messed it up and all of that. So, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't the perfect storm. You do this in other countries in Africa. That's exactly what the other person was just asking. It has to be a perfect storm, right? So we own a law firm in Kenya. So we do all of Kenya. We don't own a law firm anywhere else. But all of those criteria have to come together. So you got to deal with a professional that can measure all of that criteria for you and let you know whether or not the numbers are going to come together so that you're going to be okay, right? Now, if you don't need to be okay, there are some people who are like, look, I'm not quitting my job, right? I got a remote job. I like, what I'm hearing. I want that money coming in, but I'm not quitting my job anyway. If that's the case, then it's just extra money. Then it's just an investment. Then whatever, right? But if you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can retire today. Like we had, we had a couple that's 35 years old. They will never have to work again, right? Their bond ladder is actually closer to 20 years. It's like 19 years. They're going to get a check from the government every month that's more than they're spending every month, and they own their own house down here at the Annie by the beach, and they're going to get that check from the government every month for the next 19 years. They're 35 years old, right? So it just depends on what you want out of life, essentially. Bring you back over here. Yeah, man, sure. Shoot it over to me. Do we work with realtors? Sometimes. It's delicate because remember, it's somebody who's like giving up their source of income basically for a passive source of income, which is great. If you DM me a website, I don't think it'll show it to me because of the filters um, on or if you put it here, I'm sorry, if you put it here, I don't think it'll show it because of the filters with the website. I think you have to DM it to me. Um, oh, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. How are you, just lovely Lydia? How are you? You can email it as well. Yeah. The email's in the bio. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Do we kind of sometimes we work with realtors, but the numbers have to make sense. The issue with the realtors is normally a lot of hands in there. So sometimes the price of the houses go so high then because of like the step ups, because like sometimes it's like a realtor and an agent and the broker's fees and the whatever, so like now you're 12 to 16% higher than you used to be. And so because those folks, they're coming in, giving up their income, and then they're getting the Central Bank of Kenya bond payments every month. Sometimes the realtors end up carrying it too high, and then they lose the whole deal, which also drags things for us. So we typically just build the houses from scratch. Yeah, you can move right away. So what ends up happening is if people want to move right away, then we have fully furnished apartments. So it takes us 10 months to build a house. So then, we'll structure it into the deal, and then they'll have, 10 months at a fully furnished apartment until the house is done. Hey, how's it going? No, no disturbing at all. You're good to go. Yes, yes, you can benefit from it without relocating. That's true. Typically, our clients that do that are doing generational wealth trust. So if you're doing a generational wealth trust, then you can definitely do a bond ladder in the generational wealth trust to help the generational wealth trust compound. And so the compounding will accelerate. And so it'll cut down the time it's going to take for the money in the trust to become significant money. Can you do packages for people to come down and tour to see what everything looks like? We can. Um, we just need, it's typically an a la carte situation because it's going to depend on how long you want to come, what you want to see, and what you want to go do. We can do that though. The other thing that we're doing is we have a package that includes your like your immigration paperwork and all of that, but it also includes a two-bedroom apartment near the beach for a year. So you can actually like hang out for a year and like actually, because what ends up happening is when you visit, it's great, you saw it and all of that stuff, but you're really not getting a feel for it, right? And then the second time you come back and you visit, you're like, it's just not the same. Like I don't understand. Like it felt different last time, and it's that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? So even visiting doesn't really give you that kind of feel for what's going on. It's better if you can, do some kind of extended stay. Like when people talk about like doing a semester abroad. Like if you can do it that way, essentially, it definitely works out a lot better as far as understanding what's going on locally and all of that stuff. So we set up a program where people can come and then their rent is completely paid and all of that stuff, and all their immigration stuff gets done for them and all that. So there's that as well. But we do tours. They just got to be focused so that we know what it's going to cost. Yeah. Now if you're looking for that, you don't want to come here. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. Like so, if you're looking for that, like maybe go to, I don't know, Colombia, Mexico, Philippines, or something like that. This is not where people who are just concerned about cheap go. You're going to be disappointed. Nairobi is a luxury city, but you get luxury discount, right? So, for example, I got a friend in a place called what's it called, Kagiri, right? Which is like a, I don't know, it's like a Beverly Hills type of place, right? So, for each acre there, you're paying around like $3.5 million, not local money, right? So it's one of those places, right? Now, if you had to buy that, I don't know, in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, it would cost you $7 to $10 million, right? So, and you're getting the same thing. So, discount luxury, yes. Some like cheap backwater place, absolutely not. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so if that's like the focus, like somebody somebody was on someone else's live, um, that somebody who's legit, and we talk about, and they're like a relocation like coach, and they were talking about crazy stuff like 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 food stamps and stuff because they never left the country. So they were like, "Oh, I get food stamps in New York, and I went to Florida once, and my food stamp card from New York works in Florida," which apparently is true, right? You don't have to spend your food stamps in the state you get it, I guess. So in their head, they were like, "Oh, my food stamp card will work anywhere. I can." And they were like, "No, it is not that kind of party." They wouldn't even qualify to get the relocation. But yeah, I tell you, this is not that place. So, Mexico, Medellin, Thailand, maybe, Philippines, maybe that'll work out, but not here. In order to meet the criteria for a Class K permit, which is a residency permit, you would need to be able to prove that you have an income of at least $2,000 a month, right? Now, if you did a Class G permit, which is an investor permit, there is no requirement of monthly income, but it's actually more expensive, right? So for a Class G, they expect you to be a business owner bringing a business to, Kenya, and for a Class G, you would need $100,000 in a local bank account, right? They don't take it from you, but it's a put up or shut up move, right? You can't just have an LLC and say you're a business owner. You got to have a real business, because what they don't want is like you come start a business owner and then fire everybody in 2 months because you went out of business, right? Because you don't have any money and you don't know what you were doing and you thought it was cheap, right? Like that other person just asked, and you thought you were going to take $5,000 and go start the next Fortune 500 company. Because it's bad for their people. Like then you're hiring somebody, fire them in 2 months. Maybe they didn't go to another opportunity because they thought this was going to be a better one or whatever, and now they're on the unemployment line. So they got to look out for their people in those situations. And so it's actually more, right? Because your 2,000 a month is 24,000 a year. This other one, you got to put up 100,000 cash, right? So they wouldn't have qualified anyway. But there are people who, for some reason, just feel like it's just, super cheap. You can have nothing and just make the relocation, and not here. There are probably places out there that you can go. This is just not one of them. 3 of these streams apparently have some kind of lighting correction. The TikTok one does not. So let me turn on a light for you guys on TikTok. All right. Is that a little bit better? All right, looks better. We just got to go somewhere else. There's nothing that can be done about it. Like, you don't qualify under immigration guidelines. It's like no one can help you. Anyone who says they can is scamming you, right? Like, you don't qualify under the immigration guidelines. You don't qualify under the immigration guidelines. So it's like law. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no way around it. Like, people would be like, "Oh, I'm 34. All right, cool. I'll see you next year." And if you want a Class K permit, you have to be 35. Nothing I can do about it. It's a hard immigration guideline. You know what I mean? So you just got to qualify under the guidelines. If you get a Class G permit, you can be 18, right? So if you're a business owner, you happen to be an 18-year-old business owner, you got $100,000 to put in a bank account, you can get a Class G permit, right? But you got to meet the guidelines. Yeah. I mean, you just kind of got to get it where you're fitting. You know what I mean? There's typically, like, for folks who are digital nomads or folks that just want to relocate, there's typically a place for everybody. But it's gonna be a you get what you pay for type of situation. Hey, buddy. So, yeah, I mean, they're not going to be as nice as this, or as consistent as this, and all of that type of stuff. But some places are not as nice, and they're even more expensive, actually. Islands typically. Islands typically where things, if you're in a situation where everything is imported, that's expensive. Yeah, yeah. You can't be broke. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. Uh, I suppose you could, but it has no legitimate impact on the ladder. So the question was, can the bond ladder have more than 6 bonds? Yeah, but now you're just getting like a double payment on one of the months, right? Typically, what ends up happening is most people get additional ladders. That's true, right? Because it's great, and these interest rates are not going to last forever. So when you get them now, they're locked in for the whole 19, 15, 10 years, whatever. Right. So a lot of people want to get them locked in and have them for a decade or two. But typically what ends up happening is like you have your ladder or you have your household ladder, right? That covers the household. Now the next ladder doesn't have to be at that same level, right? So that's what typically happens. So remember that first ladder, it was like 6 million plus in local units, right? Right. So it's like over 6 million Kenyan shillings essentially that's being, put to work, right? Now, let's say like this just happened. We just did this for a client actually. The wife wants to spend some money, right? So they have their budget, but the wife wants to spend more money, right? So all right, we're not going to do another 6 million, right? But how about we do 3 million in another ladder so that the wife gets a check every month and the wife can just blow that check. Like that is now her spending money, right? So that's what we did. We set that up for them because that's what they wanted, right? And then they were like, oh, you know what? How about we do like an education fund for the kids? Let's go ahead and do a smaller bond ladder for the kids as well, and they get a check every month as well, but it doesn't, like, they don't actually spend the check. It goes into this like college savings fund type of thing, right? So that does happen. Folks with businesses do the same thing, right? Where they'll go ahead and they'll get a bond ladder for businesses sometimes so that they don't have to worry about clients, right? So now it makes no sense to just have a business where you're not like serving your clients. However, if you have a specialized business where you don't, like, specialists never listen to clients, period, right? That's what it means to be a specialist, right? So if you have a specialized business and you need to have those long gaps in between where you have no clients, then that could make sense as well to pad that business so that that business can stay open without clients, right? And so there's a lot of people who will use a bond ladder that way as well. So there's a bunch of different like use cases. There's even more use cases than we use them for. We just focus on generational wealth, corporate expansion, and relocation. So those are our three use cases, but there are plenty of other use cases as well. Like we have a trustee company that we use for our clients that we build trusts for. That trustee company has a program where folks that want to send their kids to boarding school in Kenya, which are they're typically Kenyans who are living abroad, right? So those folks will use a bond ladder to pay the school fees and also pay for the housing and pay for like the car that takes their kids to school and like all that stuff and the kids, the food and all of that. Like they'll use a bond ladder to handle all of that. And then the kids will get done with school and there'll be 5 years, 10 years left on the bond ladder where now it just turns into an investment, right? Also, the kids could graduate from school and find a really high paying job, because there are high paying jobs out here. Just don't bank on coming over here that way. But they might find a high paying job out here and want to work here, and then now that becomes their cushion as well, where they can lean back on those bonds, right? So that's not a use case that we utilize because we don't personally offer that program, but those guys do. So there's all kinds of different use cases for it. Whatever you can think of that makes that money useful, essentially. Yeah, you know what it is? A lot of people like to talk. And so these simple solutions, the bullshit, right? Like when the simple solution is on the table and now all the excuses are gone, it's shit or get off the pot, right? So it's helpful in that way that it's like, here's the solution. You're gonna do it or not. You know what I mean? And so because way back when we first started, there are so many. We started and we had like free consultations and all of that stuff. People would waste our time to the point where we couldn't even speak to our clients because the consultations were free. So half the time they wouldn't even show up, right? When they did show up, they absolutely didn't qualify. Like they were broke and just wanted to like dream with somebody on the phone about relocating and all of that. And like our real clients couldn't even like book an appointment with us because we had so many talkers wasting our time. So then we started, like charging for the consultations, and that got rid of the bullshitters, and and all of that stuff. And but yeah, the simpler you get, the more you get rid of the people who have, a problem for every solution, and the more you start zeroing in on the people who want a solution for the problem, like legitimately. And so it's been cool because now, even with us, like, our turnover has gone down to basically zero, right? Because we pick and choose our clients. We don't need clients. We have bond ladders, right? Like we do the thing that we talk about. So we have bond ladders. We don't actually need clients, and so like our employees don't have to deal with any nonsense, right? They don't. Nobody gets to talk bad to them. Nobody gets to be rude. We're very respectful to our clients. Obviously, our clients are very respectful to us. Like it's all good, and so everybody loves it. Everybody, we love all our clients. Our clients, typically love us, and that ends up being the end of it. So yeah, you attract like solid people once you cut through the nonsense. A favorite client. Well, we don't typically like release their names because they are covered under attorney-client privilege. We own a law firm, right? So that that ends up being a problem sometimes too, right? So like when we're looking for like testimonials and stuff, right? Or people are looking for referrals, right? So now we have like this policy where if you ask us for a referral, then you have to sign a waiver to be a referral, right? And the last 12 clients that asked for a referral, we were like, yeah, no problem. We do have a couple clients that are willing to talk to prospects, right? But they're like waiving their attorney-client privilege in that case, right? In order for us to like give them your name and all of that and contact information in order to make that happen, right? And there's very few people who will do that. So if you want that, you need to be willing to be the next person to do that. And like the last 7, you know, consultations that we had, like they were like, "No, I don't need a referral. We're good." Like I don't need a reference. I'm not going to be the next reference. So because of the trust fund work that we do, a lot of people are just like, I don't want nobody knowing where my trust fund is at. I don't want nobody knowing where like my trust fund money is at. And we get it, but it does suck from a social proof point of view. No, but there are a couple. What is that? Are you on the YouTube? That's not YouTube. That's Instagram. I don't know if there are interviews on Instagram, but you can go to our YouTube, and there, like I said, there are some people who they signed a waiver so that we can, Go ahead and put their faces out there and their names out there and the things that they're doing out there. And yeah, so you can go see some of the clients. Yeah, no, we get it. We get it. It just, like when you're dealing with like a coach and not like, legal things, your coaches will show 30,000 relocated people and you have all these people flashing all over social media, but there's no attorney client privilege there. They can do that, right? But when you're setting up estate planning for people and you're setting up trust funds and doing international structures for them and all that, you can't just put them out there like that. And so this is a different dynamic. Because it's tax free. That's why. So there are a bunch of different types of trusts. Most of the time when you're going international, it boils down to two different things. Are you trying to protect assets? Are you trying to build generational wealth? Right? There are a bunch of other things to use a trust for, but when you go international, it typically boils down to those two things. Right? We typically focus on generational wealth building, right? A generational wealth trust. So the more aspects of the trust that are tax exempt, the better. And so our generational wealth trusts are typically housed in Kenya for that reason. The distributions are tax exempt. Yep. The trust is taxed like a company, but the distributions are tax exempt, right? So, for example, when we use this bond ladder, there's a 10% withholding tax unless it's an infrastructure bond and it's tax exempt. So there's a 10% withholding tax that is a final tax, right? So that 10% comes off of the ROI before it gets to you, and that is considered a final tax. You don't have an additional tax liability come tax time, right? And because it's coming from the Central Bank of Kenya, the government already has your tax withholding certificate, right? So you're good. You're good to go. And then when you push that money out to the beneficiary, the taxes have already been paid. So the exemption is on the basis of the taxes being paid at the organization level. It used to be the other way around. It used to be that they saw the organization as tax exempt. And then when the distribution happened, the individual was taxed on distribution income. But the first 10 million was exempt. Now everything's exempt because the taxes have already been paid. Yeah, your corporate income tax rate would be 30% if you were operating as a business, but a trust is a non-trading entity, so you really can't operate as a business anyway, right? So the two ways for a business to come in is the trust owns a business, in which case that business is paying its own taxes anyway, and when it kicks a distribution up to the trust, it does a 5%, which is even better than the bond's 10%, right? There's a 5% withholding tax, and that is a final tax. Or like with the bond scenario, there's a 10% withholding tax, and that ends up being a final tax. Obviously, dividends from a company are not going to be as static as the dividends from a bond, which are called coupon payments, right? The bond money is going to be the same money every cycle because it's based on whatever amount you bought the bond for however many years. So every time they pay you, it's the exact same dollar amount every single time, right? Whereas the money coming from the company, if you have a really good year, it could be way more than the bond. If you have a bad year or a bad quarter, it could be nothing, right? So the company money is definitely not as locked on as the bond money, but a trust an incorporated trust is a non-trading entity in this jurisdiction. So you're not subject to, you've traded and now, even though, yes, the corporate tax rate is 30%, you're not doing business. So none of the money that you're dealing with should be taxed at 30%. Everything should be a withholding tax because it should essentially all be passive income. Well, right. I mean, if you did something and you were taxed at the 30%, you'd essentially have bigger problems because it meant that you traded, which is against the law for a trust to do. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions on that? Sounds like my son is getting cranky. If there are no more questions on any of that, then I will call it a day. It's been an hour. We've been here talking about this for an hour. An hour and 1 minute and 51 seconds. All right, looks like everybody's questions are answered. I don't see anybody else asking me anything. So thanks for hanging out with me, Freedom Family, and I will see you the next time I go live.